So in a previous video, we took this joiner down to the bolts and completely rebuilt it. In this video, we're making a mobile base loaded with features, including
72-inch extendable arms, mobile base, motor compartment, integrated dust collection, storage, cord ramp, push stick holder.
Please feel free to skip ahead to any of the following sections in the video, and we'll get to it. Here are the parts used in this project. A set of casters, 4 12-inch drawer slides, 3/4-inch electrical conduit, 1-inch square metal tubing, 4-inch flanged dust collection elbow, paddle switch, 2 rollers salvaged from a support stand, 5/16 bolts and T-nuts, a replacement V-belt. I'm using 1/4-inch, 5/8, and 3/4-inch Baltic birch plywood. We'll start with the frame assembly by cutting the 3/4-inch material following the layout guide. I like to leave an 1/8 of an inch excess on track saw cuts and clean them up on the table saw, and continue with the smaller cuts using the table saw and the crosscut sled. Stop blocks on a crosscut sled are always handy when making repeated cuts. The 3/4-inch cut layout also includes parts for the support assemblies. We'll cut those, but leave them aside for now. Now onto the side of the cabinet. Here I chose to use a dado joint for the shelf. The exterior cabinet holes which support the EMT conduit were then carefully measured and punched. Working with 3/4-inch EMT conduit is a little tricky as the outside diameter is actually 0.922 of an inch, which is larger than 7/8 of an inch, but less than 1 inch. So I used a 7/8 Forstner bit and then enlarged the hole with a spindle sander till I got a snug fit with the EMT. We can also pre-drill for the motor mount at this point. Then I sanded the inside before it's too late using 120 grit, which is good enough for me in any type of shop project. Then it's time to assemble the cabinet using glue and pocket hole screws. I opted for regular screws on the bottom as they are hidden. And then I got to do a test fit with the EMT. Then I installed the pieces which the casters actually mount to. I often like to laminate my shop projects. In this build, I'm laminating the top and the drawer fronts. Yeah, definitely clamp down your workpiece when drilling with a hole saw. The slot for the belt was cut using a plunge router and multiple passes. Now is a good time to do a test fit and make sure all the sheaves for the belts line up correctly. Once I'm happy with where the jointer is, I marked out all the holes and pre-drilled them. The bolts for the casters were recessed as to not interfere with the operation of the bottom drawer. Let's now move on to the supports. EMT conduit can be cut in a few different ways, whether it's a hacksaw or an angle grinder, but the pipe cutter takes the cake for the cleanest cut. One end of each EMT pipe was notched with the angle grinder to help the adhesive better grip when we go install these later. And the other end requires a hole to install a cotter pin. The support body pieces were clamped in position and marked for where the EMT holes were to be drilled. This first hole is required to recess the T-nut. And then we can drill the 1/4 inch deep hole for the EMT. Tung oil was used to basically seal up this entire project. The support guide was clamped in place and screws were used to mark each hole. The EMT conduit slides along plywood bushings, which is actually recovered material from the back of the frame. Using a sanding drum on a Dremel tool works excellent to slightly enlarge the holes so the EMT slides smoothly along the track. I will be installing these lower EMT bushings as I made a mistake in the CAD modeling process. The plans have been updated to include 3 of the same EMT bushings. I'm using construction adhesive to mount the EMT to the support body. You can buy a plastic knob, but I chose to 3D print one for an existing 5/16 bolt I had on hand. The Thingiverse files can be found in the links below. After gluing up the EMT, I found that they just weren't supported well enough. I used these 3/4 inch EMT rings. This has been updated in the plans and can be done during the support body construction. These were clamped into place and left overnight to dry. And now we can start building our drawers. Dados were spaced evenly on the front and back of the bottom drawer. This is for the dividers we'll be installing later. The stop block in the pocket hole jig was very useful in indexing the pocket hole locations from the sides of the boards. This is a jig I previously made on the laser cutter, and it's come in handy quite a few times. After rough cutting the handle on the bandsaw, I used double-sided tape to stick the template to the workpiece and then use a flush trim router bit to clean up the edges. The back of the bottom drawers had to be notched to accommodate the EMT bushings. The bottom of the drawers also had to be notched to provide clearance to the front casters. And now we can prepare to mount the switch. This part is called an offset nipple or an offset connector, and I just found it to be a clean way to mount the switch box. With all of the electrical connections made, we can now fire it up for the first time. To determine which belt I need now, I measured on the outside of the sheaves and subtracted 1 inch, leading me to a 41-inch belt. The cord wrap was made using leftover parts from this project. I routed a bevel into it and then mounted it to the frame using 2 1/4-inch wood screws. I cut up more scrap material to make a push stick holder. Overall, this project turned out really great. The extension arms, which were a complete experiment, retract easy and hold a ton of weight. Check me out on Instagram to see what I'm currently working on. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching and see you next time.
Build XYZ!